TGIF, and welcome to Fridays with Flora, our bi-weekly series on crafting, cooking, entertaining tips, gardening, you name it, whatever's going on seasonally at the homestead. And this weekend, we're going to focus on plants, houseplants in particular. Fall is a time of transition, as we all know. And if you're living in the northern half of the country, it's getting colder. And if you're like me and you like plants and you like gardening, you might have taken some of your house plants from the inside and taking them outside so they can just bask in that warm summer sun and warm rains, and they've probably grown really well, but now they're starting to look kind of sad and you need to make a decision. Do I kind of just let them go and die, or do I bring them back into the house? I like to bring in as much as possible, even some herbs, because it's always fun to have fresh basil and fresh rosemary, you know, even in the winter months. But bringing in plants from the outside poses a lot of challenges because plants have been in the wild, which means wild things have probably found their way in the dirt, found their way on the leaves, and then when you bring that inside and then you welcome some problems with those plants in the house, because now it's either very humid, depending on what kind of heat source you have inside, or it could be very dry heat, which means the humidity is very low. Either way, funky things happen to plants when you come from the outside in. I found some of my own problems with like bringing in rosemary. I get powdery mildew, I get aphids, I get fungus gnats if things are too moist. I get root rot sometimes. Those are my main problems that I get. But I've also learned some tips and tricks to kind of mitigate a lot of that. And if problems do occur, I'm going to share some tips on what to have in the cabinet, very low chemical, so that you can, do something to ward off some of that stuff without having to go to Home Depot and get chemicals and stuff that you don't really want to have around your pets or your kids. So I'm here in my office actually, and I just got a fiddlehead. Isn't she pretty? I got her at Aldi actually. She was the last one and she was all by herself and she is really loving it with the very medium sun I'm getting from this window. Now, once the magnolia tree loses its leaves, I'm going to get a lot more sun coming into this window. So this tree back here used to be this big. So it's doing really well. And that is a house plant. I didn't bring that in from outside. This I brought from a store. It was looking really sad. The reason why we're in here is because one of the first things, step one, figure out what you're going to bring inside and walk around your house and figure out what sun situations you're going to have. Where are your windows? How much sun are you getting? And like I mentioned with my magnolia tree, consider, November, December, January, February, March. You're probably going to get a lot more sun if a tree is blocking that window because you won't have leaves blocking it. So consider that as well. Consider also those windows if things are drafty. Perhaps you might want to do a little extra insulation on those windows to protect your plants. Okay, so number one, scout out your space, figure out what's going where. Step two, figure out how you're going to put these plants in the house. And we're in my office again because this is a plant stand I use outside. And rather than just storing it away in the deck, I brought it in here. So consider before you go shopping, take a walk around your yard and figure out if you can bring in some plant stands to sort of help group and stack plants so that you're not disrupting everything in the house. Shoving plants here and there and everywhere and everything getting in the way. So you're going to need plant stands or plant shelves or something. So start first in the yard, and then I go to a few places. First I go to a thrift store actually, and I sometimes get really creative on what I find and am also, because I like to be creative and not spend a lot of money. So so today I went to the thrift store. I did not find anything, sadly. So then I went over to Home Depot and I found a really cool shelf that I'll show you that was only for like $25. The brand is Vigo. They usually make plant food and plant stuff, but they actually have come out with a whole line of like plant stands and plant shelves. So it was at the right width that I need, which I'll show you in a minute. We're going to go into my kitchen where I have full sun at my window there, and where most of the plants from outside are going to go. So scope things out, find how you're going to stack and place your plants for the next 5 to 6 months, and then bring in your plants. So we're gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna show you what I'm bringing in and why, and steps to take to get them all spiffy for coming in with you and overwintering with you. So thanks for joining me today. We're gonna learn a lot. So get your work gloves on, get your spade, and we'll have some fun. I get a lot of light here. It's a really great corner. I do a lot of my shooting for my blog here. As in all homes, the kitchen is the hub, right? And the kitchen table is the hub. So yes, I get a lot of great light in here, but here's the issue. I want to bring my plants in. A lot happens here. I can't fill my table with plants, right? So these are full sun plants. So I've got like 2 kalanchoe. This is a ginger plant. I just put a ginger root in there, and look, it just went crazy. It hasn't been happy since it's gotten cooler, so I trimmed up some of the dead leaves and cleaned it up a little bit, and hopefully it's going to come back nicely through the winter. We'll see. I have a curry plant that is now sitting outside because we actually have a 65-degree day today. Shocker. So I'm giving it a little bit of love out there. So you kind of assess what you have, and you decide, step 3, you decide what you're going to repot and what you're going to keep. And the reason why you kind of want to understand this is because you have to understand like what kind of dirt you have that's gonna possibly give you some trouble the minute it's inside and it's around, you know, dry heat and maybe not good air circulation or whatever you have in the fall and the winter in your home. So if you've got good potting soil, it should be good to go. I'm going to keep the kalanchoes in their pots, but I am going to repot the curry plant. The curry plant needs to be repotted because my husband, I think, used dirt from the yard mixed with potting mix, because I think we were low on potting mix or something. And that one I'm worried about because that's soil that's been out of the yard and now I'm bringing it in here, and that's when you are pretty much asking for problems because there's a lot of bugaboos in there, there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm not sure some of my remedies are going to be able to work. So I'd rather just start fresh. So when you go to the store and you start picking up plant stands and shelves and whatever, stop at a garden center or a big box store and get a really good potting soil, potting mix. Today we're going to work with Miracle-Gro. Sorry, Miracle-Gro, I'm going to say this right now. You're not my favorite, but it's all Home Depot had. Evidently, Miracle-Gro just bought out Home Depot. So there's Black Gold, which I prefer. There's a couple other soil blends that I prefer. I couldn't get to the other specialty garden stores to get that today. So do your research online. There's some really great houseplant bloggers that did a whole analysis on soils. My issue with Miracle-Gro sometimes is that it gives me fungus gnats if I'm not careful. But Miracle-Gro might get really mad at me and say that it's my own brown thumb or whatever. But anyway, we're gonna work with Miracle-Gro today, and that's that. So before we do our repotting, the plants that I've brought in that I'm gonna keep the soil, we're going to treat with hydrogen peroxide, okay? Evidently, hydrogen peroxide is like this miracle thing. And it's really, really good for plants for certain things. People claim that it can uncompact soil, that, you know, it oxygenates the roots, it makes things grow. it's not going to uncompact your soil. What is hydrogen peroxide? Hydrogen peroxide is basically water that's got an extra oxygen atom to it. So it's good that it does provide extra oxygen in the soil. It also will kill fungal critters and bacteria and things that you might not want growing in your soil. So I like to do a gentle addition of this when I'm bringing the plants in from outside. So I do a tablespoon to 1 cup of water. And I'm going to pour this right in the dirt. And you're going to hear a little bit of sizzling actually, and that's the hydrogen peroxide killing some of the fungus and the bacteria and some of the naughty things in there. Now, I'm going to do this. And I hear the sizzling. It's really funny. Is this going to help with root rot? No. You're still watering your roots. Is it going to be fertilizer? No. There's nothing in there other than water and oxygen, so why would that fertilize? There's a lot of misinformation out on the internet about hydrogen peroxide. It does some good things. It's not a miracle cure. So as it's sizzling, you're killing stuff. Be careful. You don't want to overdo hydrogen peroxide watering. You will kill everything if you continue to use this. So you want to use it sparingly, and you also want to use it when you really do have problems, specific problems with your plant. So this is just a very gentle kind of cleaning and get you boosted for coming inside. So I'm going to do that with the plants that I'm not going to change the soil out for. Let's go ahead and do that. And I will also say that you could create a spritzer bottle for your plants if you find that maybe there's some things growing on the leaves, fungus, mold, and you can do a tablespoon to a cup in a spritzer bottle and keep that on hand and spray things down too as well. Okay, so I've treated all my plants that I'm not moving. Now I'm going to plant the plants that need changing or just need dirt. So this is a really cool technique if you have some plants in the ground that you kind of want to enjoy a little bit of inside. This is mint. And I've had this sitting in water for about a month. I don't know if you can see, I have roots. So I am going to plant it in some dirt. So I have a small pot for it, and I'm going to put some rocks along the bottom just to help with some drainage. And I'm going to put some dirt in. So this technique of propagating from stem cuttings is awesome. It's a really affordable way to get some new plants. I've done this with Rose of Sharon. And actually, I'm doing it with this little fuchsia cutting right now, and I already see little roots coming off of the stem. So I'm going to see if I can grow my fuchsia over the winter too. But you need a good clump of roots to do this. Spread them out gently. There we go, mint. Mint from some cuttings from outside. So go out there and cut some basil. See if you can get the basil to give you some stems. I'm gonna warn you, I didn't have much luck with my basil cutting, but maybe you will. But yeah, there's definitely some plants you can do this trick with. Okay, so now for my curry plant, which what I did was I took it out of its pot that it's been sitting in outside. I shook off as much dirt as possible. I'm gonna sit it over a bowl, and I've mixed my hydrogen peroxide and water, and I'm just going to douse the root ball. I mean, if you're gonna go to the trouble of repotting, especially a plant that's been in, you know, dirt that's really from your yard in the wild, you want to do this so you have a clean slate. So I'm going to set it in my pot for a minute, and you're going to repot it. Oh, and it's interesting, you're going to see the dirt is foaming up from the hydrogen peroxide, so there were some bugaboos in there, that's for sure. Okay. So, like before, rocks at the bottom and put some dirt. Spread out your root ball so it's got room. So, there you go. Nice, clean, new home for our curry plant. Hopefully it's going to grow tall and strong and we can make some lovely, lovely Indian dishes with it. So that's the next step. Just situate everything, and then we're going to talk about humidity. You guys can see this. It's pretty groovy. And those shelves fold up and down so that it folds flat. Anyway, I'm not sure we're going to keep that ginger on there. It's pretty big, but I don't know. It needs a lot of sun. So we'll see. The other thing I got, and it's nice and narrow, which was what I was really looking for. I would have liked it even more narrow. It's not as high as I wanted, but I think to find the right thing is just going to take me too long. And yeah, it's Vigoro. So we're going to talk about moisture. We have a very dry house. It's an old house. It's like a Victorian house. It's been rehabbed I don't know how many times. It gets really, really dry. Our humidifier can't keep up with it. So you might have the same situation, or you might have radiator heat, and if you do, that's awesome, because you will have a lot of moist heat. But then you have to worry about too much humidity. So it's such a delicate balance when you bring these plants in from the outside. When it's outside, Mother Nature kind of takes care of it, right? In general. So one of the things I like to do as it gets colder, I ended up buying a couple of plastic trays over at the thrift store. I also have an old baking sheet. It's a little smaller. So find a tray that can hold some rocks and a little bit of water. And really, that's what you do. You can, here's some rocks. They're actually aquarium rocks. And you just kind of nestle them on top here. And what you can do is you fill it with water, and then you can place the plants right on top. See what I'm saying? And then what happens is the water just kind of slowly evaporates into the air and gives moisture. You could do this just, you know, a couple times a month. You could also just leave the tray down below, which is I think what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the bigger tray, and on that bottom shelf of this plant stand, I'm going to use this tray with some rocks and just hit it with some water like once a week. And the air is just going to absorb that water just as it needs it, you know? It's just a matter of just evaporating into the air. So it's kind of your poor man's way of like getting some humidity into the air. The other thing you can do, if it's getting really dry, is running a humidifier once in a while. In all this, you just got to keep an eye on your plants, because if mold starts happening, you start noticing fungus gnats, you're overdoing it, okay? Things are too moist. So you want to make sure that there's some air circulation going around your plants and that there's a nice balance of moisture. Now let's pretend you do everything perfectly and you still have some problems. I have some remedies for you, and that's the last step of my very long video, and I didn't think it was going to be this long. Sorry. Thanks for sticking with me. Okay, so I'm going to clean this up, and then we're going to talk about remedies when things go sideways. We're going to finish out kind of our how-to video on talking about how to handle issues when plants are brought inside and you're doing everything you can to keep the moisture, air circulation going, but inevitably you get some powdery mildew, you get some fungus gnats. I have some tricks up my sleeve to help, and I have used some of these with really great success. I'll put some links in the notes below, particularly for the chamomile recipe. Not to steal my own thunder, but so, you know, this has been steeping for quite a few hours and the water's cool, and what I like to do is squeeze the tea bags really, really aggressively. And this is what's going to kill the powdery mildew. You may not have known that. You may think chamomile is great for, you know, calming, a nice, you know, nighttime tea. It's actually a natural mold and mildew killer. So I have a spray bottle here, and in it I've put some Epsom salt, a couple teaspoons. You can also, in this mixture, depending on, you know, what you want to tackle, a little bit of dish soap, really gentle dish soap, can kill spider mites or some bugs that are maybe living on your leaves. And you could also put in some neem oil. That also does a really great job at killing fungus, killing all kinds of things. So you could mix in a little bit of that with this chamomile. And it's really, really strong tea. And I'm just gonna pour it in this, and it's gonna mix up. I'm doing Epsom salt because this is just a general. And what is Epsom salt? Epsom salt is basically nitrogen. It's a fertilizer. So sometimes you're gonna get plant problems just because the plant is weak and it can't fight things off. So a little food boost helps. It strengthens the root system, and it greens up the leaves and makes them kind of wider and stronger. And so label this and keep it in a cabinet, and when you start seeing problems, just give it a good spray. I even use this on my roses when I get rose black spot and mildew in the fall. It works. I took care of powdery mildew like within 2 days on my rosemary plant a few years ago. Another thing that I like having nearby when bringing plants inside is cinnamon, ground cinnamon. And I'm gonna show you my sad little fern that I was going to actually get rid of because it was not doing well, as you can see. I brought it home from Home Depot, I did everything right, and it just did not like being here. But I did a hydrogen peroxide treatment because I think I was noticing some like fungal mold mildew stuff happening. So I did that, and then I noticed some fungus gnats. So I brought it outside. I first cut all the dead stuff off. I also got a grow light. I thought there was enough light in the corner. There was not. So I put a grow light in, and I still noticed a few little gnats. This cinnamon kills fungus gnats, and I use it when I'm doing seeds in the winter too. Seed starting will sometimes bring fungus gnats if you don't have enough air circulation. And a little sprinkling of cinnamon right on the top. It's going to make things smell good if you like it. And it's going to tamp down those fungus gnats. I'm going to keep this fern, and this is a good segue to talk about bringing your plants in and just keeping an eye on them. I noticed I have all these new baby fronds coming up. And that's how I know this fern is coming back. So keep an eye on all your plants. It smells good now. Keep an eye on all your plants that you bring in. You're gonna notice there's a disruption, right? Plants don't like to be moved. So you're gonna notice some death and destruction. You're gonna lose some leaves. You might lose a stem or two. Trim them off. The plant's gonna put energy towards trying to fix whatever's wrong. Just trim them up and keep an eye on them. And in the next few weeks, if you start seeing some new growth or they're perking up and you see the leaves kind of moving a little bit towards where the sun is now, that's how you know they're adjusting and they're doing well. And look for new growth. That's really the key. So I'm gonna keep the fern. I've got a lot of new growth in here. I think it liked the grow light. And to that end, one final comment. I'm in Illinois, so it's going to get darker and darker earlier, to the point where I think around Christmas the sun goes down around 4:30. And it's really sad and depressing for us humans. It's not that great for plants either. So even this corner, I've got my curry plant here and I've got my mint, and I'm a little worried on what's going on in this corner, and I'm going to keep an eye on that. If I don't have 6 to 8 good hours of light for these full sun plants, I'm going to need a grow light. So keep in mind that you can always supplement your light sources when you bring these guys in with a grow light. Even if you have an old lamp somewhere, just go to Home Depot, get the grow light, replace that light bulb with a grow light. You can put it on a timer and you don't have to worry about it again. So that is the scoop. And that is the long video about how to take care of plants and bringing them inside for fall and winter. And I really recommend that you do it, you know, and if you don't have anything to bring inside, go to Home Depot and grab some plants, because you know what? They bring such joy and good feng shui, and they clean the air in your home, and they just bring good energy to your space. And I think we're all looking for some positivity, and guess what? We're all home. We're all stuck at home. So why not have some fun with plants and have them be part of your family? Thanks for joining me today on Fridays with Flora on this rainy fall day. And if you want to stay up on all the fun and learn all the things that we are teaching here, subscribe below. There's that little button. Please hit it. I really do appreciate it. It really, really does help the channel. It keeps us able to continually share with you. It really does help. So stay safe. Be careful out there. Be kind. Blessings. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.